What if I told you that every choice you make lasts forever? Not just in this life, but in lives you haven't lived yet. What if the hardest decisions we face aren't really about right or wrong at all, but about something much deeper? Something that old religions knew about, but modern people have forgotten. Today, we're learning about one of Edgar Cayce's most challenging and misunderstood teachings. A teaching that doesn't judge, doesn't blame, but shows a spiritual truth so deep, it will change how you see every relationship in your life. This isn't about politics. This isn't about picking sides. This is about understanding the invisible connections that tie souls together across time itself. And I have to warn you, what you're about to learn may shake how you understand love, loss, and the choices that shape us. So take a breath. Open your mind, because we're about to explore a question that Edgar Cayce answered in a way no one expected. The mystery begins. It all begins with a letter. A desperate letter sent to Edgar Cayce in 1939. A woman, let's call her Sarah, though that wasn't her real name, wrote with a question that had been bothering her for years. She had made a choice many women face, a choice wrapped in pain, difficult situations, and feeling like there was no other way. She had ended a pregnancy, and now, years later, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was left unfinished, that someone was still waiting, still connected to her in ways she couldn't explain. "Does this soul blame me?" she asked Cayce. "Am I being punished? Will I pay for this forever?" When Cayce went into his trance state and began to speak, what came out wasn't what anyone expected. No anger and punishment, no cosmic judgment, no being punished forever. Instead, he revealed something far more beautiful and far more complicated. He spoke of karma not as punishment, but as connection. He spoke of souls not as victims, but as eternal beings on their own journeys. And he spoke of a truth that changes everything. The price of abortion isn't paid by just one person. It's shared. It's mutual. It's part of a cosmic dance that began long before this lifetime, and will continue long after. But before we go deeper, I need you to do something for me. If this topic speaks to you, whether it brings up pain, curiosity, or just a desire to understand the spiritual sides of life's hardest choices, hit that like button. It tells me you're ready for these deeper conversations. And subscribe, because we're going to keep exploring the mysteries that others are afraid to touch. The sleeping prophet speaks. Edgar Cayce never set out to be controversial. This man, this simple photographer from Kentucky, would lie down on a couch, loosen his tie, fold his hands across his chest, and enter a state of mind that seemed to connect him with something beyond. Some called it the Akashic Records. Others called it the universal mind. Cayce himself simply called it the source of all knowledge. And from this state, he gave over 14,000 readings on everything from health to past lives to the nature of the soul itself. But his readings on abortion, these were different because Cayce never spoke in black and white. He never said this is right or this is wrong. Instead, he revealed the complicated web of spiritual cause and effect that surrounds every human choice. Let me share with you what he actually said. In reading after reading, Cayce made one thing crystal clear. A soul enters the process of becoming human from the moment of conception. Not at birth, not at the first heartbeat, not when the law says it's viable. From conception, that soul begins its journey toward physical life, drawn by karmic bonds, spiritual purposes, and lessons it has chosen to learn. But here's where it gets profound. Cayce also said that this soul knows the circumstances it's entering. It knows the mother it has chosen. It knows the challenges that await. And sometimes, hear this carefully, sometimes that soul's purpose is fulfilled, even if the pregnancy doesn't come to term. Your mind is probably racing right now. You're thinking, wait, how can that be? How can a soul's purpose be fulfilled if it never even takes a breath? Stay with me. We're about to go deeper. The karmic thread. To understand Cayce's teaching, you have to understand what karma really is. Most people think karma is cosmic payback. You do something bad, the universe punishes you. You do something good, you get rewarded. But that's not karma. Karma is connection. It's the invisible thread that connects souls across time, across lifetimes, across the very fabric of existence itself. Every interaction you have with another soul creates karma. Not because you've done something wrong, but because you've created a bond, an energetic connection, a story that wants to complete itself. Think about someone you met and instantly felt like you'd known forever. That's karma. Think about someone who bothered you in ways no one else could. That's karma, too. These connections don't end when the body dies. They continue. They evolve. They seek resolution, growth, understanding, and according to Cayce, the soul that becomes human or tries to become human through you is never random. It's a soul you've known before. Maybe in a past life you were sisters. Maybe you were enemies. Maybe you owed each other a debt of love or learning that could only be repaid through the most close relationship possible. Parent and child. This is where everything shifts. When a pregnancy is terminated, Cayce said, the karmic bond doesn't disappear. The relationship between those two souls doesn't end, transforms. If you've ever experienced abortion, whether as the woman who made that choice or as a partner who was part of that decision, you know that it doesn't just disappear. You carry it. Something in you knows that a connection was made and then changed. That's not guilt. That's not your imagination. That's your soul recognizing what Cayce taught. The relationship continues. Before we go further, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt a connection to a soul that never fully became human? Maybe a miscarriage, maybe a choice, maybe just a sense of a presence? Drop a comment below. Let's create a space where we can speak these truths without judgment. I'll heart the comments that add to this understanding because your experiences matter. Who pays the price? So let's address the question directly. Who pays the price? The answer Cayce gave might surprise you. Everyone and no one. Let me explain. In the spiritual dimension Cayce described, there is no price in the way we understand it. There's no cosmic judge counting up your mistakes and demanding payment. Instead, there's experience, there's growth, there's the natural unfolding of cause and effect. When a soul's becoming human is interrupted, several things happen. First, the incoming soul faces a choice. It can wait for another opportunity with the same parent in a future lifetime. It can choose to become human through a different path entirely. Or it can work with that parent's soul from the spiritual realm, guiding and supporting them in ways we might call guardian angels or spirit guides. Cayce revealed in multiple readings that some of the strongest spiritual guidance we receive comes from souls who almost became human through us. Think about that for a moment. That presence you sometimes feel, that sense of being watched over by someone who loves you unconditionally. That might not be a deceased relative or a traditional angel. It might be a soul that shared your body for a brief sacred moment. Second, the mother and yes, the father too experiences what Cayce called the lesson of choice and consequence. This isn't punishment, it's growth. Every choice we make shapes our soul. Some choices bring us immediate lessons. Others ripple across lifetimes. Cayce said that women who experienced abortion often carried a deep sensitivity to children in future lives. Sometimes they became healers. Sometimes they became teachers. Sometimes they experienced intense, almost karmic connections with the children they did birth. The price wasn't suffering, it was awareness. It was a deepening of the soul's capacity for compassion, for understanding the preciousness of life, for dealing with impossible choices. And third, and this is crucial, the karma created isn't one-sided. Remember, the soul attempting to become human chose this path too. It knew the circumstances. It agreed on some level to be part of this experience. Maybe it needed to teach the mother about choice. Maybe it needed to experience the threshold between life and death. Maybe it had its own karma to work through. Cayce described the universe as a place of perfect balance. No victim, no villain, just souls helping each other grow. So who pays the price? Both souls pay it by growing, by learning, by deepening their connection across the veil. And that price is also a gift, the healing path. Now here's where Cayce's teaching becomes truly life-changing, because he didn't just describe the problem, he offered a path to healing. If you're someone who has experienced abortion, or if you love someone who has, listen carefully to what comes next. Cayce said that the bond between souls goes beyond physical birth and death, which means that healing is always possible, not through forgetting, not through denial, not through drowning in guilt, but through acknowledgement and connection. In his readings, Cayce recommended several practices for healing karmic wounds related to interrupted pregnancies. First, acknowledge the soul. Speak to it in meditation, in prayer, in the quiet moments before sleep. Tell it you recognize its attempt to become human. Thank it for the connection. Ask if there's anything it needs from you. You might think this sounds strange, but countless people who have done this report experiences that defy explanation. Dreams, signs, a sense of peace that had escaped them for years. Second, understand that forgiveness is a process, not a destination. Cayce taught that we must forgive ourselves not just once, but over and over. Each time we grow into a new level of understanding. Today, you might forgive yourself for making an impossible choice. Tomorrow, you might forgive yourself for being human. Next year, you might forgive yourself for all the ways you couldn't have known better. Each layer of forgiveness heals a different dimension of the wound. Third, transform the experience into service. Cayce repeatedly emphasized that our greatest wounds become our greatest gifts. How many therapists, counselors, and healers have chosen their path because of their own pain? How many advocates for compassion and choice have been forged in the fire of impossible decisions? Your wound isn't meant to define you. It's meant to refine you. And fourth, trust the intelligence of the universe. Cayce's readings are filled with this message. Nothing happens by accident. Every soul encounter, every loss, every choice that keeps you awake at night is part of a larger pattern. You can't see it all from where you stand, but your soul knows. The other soul knows. And on some level beyond the reach of human judgment, there is agreement. There is purpose. There is love. If you're feeling something shift inside you right now, if these words are touching a place in your heart that's been closed for too long, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes the most powerful healing comes from knowing we're not alone. And subscribe to this channel because we're building a community of people brave enough to explore these profound truths together. The bigger picture. Let's zoom out for a moment because Cayce's teaching on abortion is really part of something much larger. His understanding of the eternal nature of the soul. You are not your body. Your body is a vehicle, a temporary home, a school where your soul comes to learn specific lessons. And every soul you encounter, whether they spend a lifetime with you or just 9 weeks in your womb, is a teacher. Some teachers stay for decades. They're your parents, your children, your soulmates. Some teachers stay for moments. They're the stranger who smiled at you when you needed it most. The person who cut you off in traffic and taught you patience. The soul that knocked on the door of physical existence and then chose differently. In Cayce's cosmology, nothing is wasted. Every experience adds to the richness of your soul's journey. The souls that almost become human through you, they're not lost. They're not waiting in some cosmic limbo blaming you forever. They're continuing their own journeys, growing, evolving. And quite possibly they're closer to you now than they would have been if they had been born. Because here's a truth that Cayce revealed again and again. The bonds of the spirit are stronger than the bonds of flesh. That soul might be guiding you right now. It might be the whisper you hear when you're making a difficult decision. It might be the love you feel surrounding you when you're alone in the dark. The relationship didn't end. It transformed. And that transformation is part of your soul's curriculum. Part of what you came here to learn. Now I know some of you are thinking, this is beautiful, but how do I know it's true? How can Cayce possibly know these things? That's a fair question. The truth is, you can't know with your thinking mind. Spiritual truths aren't provable like math equations, but you can feel their resonance. You can test them against your own experience. Have you ever known something you couldn't explain? Have you ever felt a connection that defied logic? Have you ever experienced a loss that somehow inexplicably made you more whole? That's your soul speaking. That's your inner knowing recognizing a truth that your mind can't quite grasp. Cayce's teachings aren't meant to be blindly believed. They're meant to be thought about, felt, integrated into your own journey of understanding. And if they resonate, if they bring you peace, if they help you make sense of the senseless, then they're serving their purpose, the soul's perspective. Now, let me share something with you that Cayce revealed in one of his most profound readings. Something that will completely shift how you think about this entire subject. A woman asked him directly, What does the soul experience when its becoming human is interrupted? Cayce's answer was stunning. He said that from the soul's perspective, existing outside of linear time, the experience of almost becoming human is just as valuable as a full lifetime. Think about that. We measure life in years and heartbeats and breaths taken, but the soul doesn't measure experience in duration. It measures in intensity, in meaning, in the depth of connection formed. That soul, in those brief weeks of existence, experienced union with another being at the most close level possible. It felt the rhythm of a heartbeat, not its own. It shared consciousness, energy, life force with another soul. And then it experienced separation, transition, the movement from physical potential back to spiritual reality. For some souls, Cayce explained, this is exactly the experience they needed. Some souls don't require 70 years of life to learn what they came to learn. Some souls need only to touch the threshold of physical existence to complete their mission. Maybe that soul needed to teach its mother about the weight of choice. Maybe it needed to awaken her spiritual awareness. Maybe it needed to show her the depth of love that can exist even in loss. Or maybe, and this is equally profound, maybe that soul needed to learn something for itself, about attachment, about letting go, about the nature of existence itself. Cayce taught that we plan our incarnations with incredible precision. Before we're born, we choose our parents, our circumstances, our challenges, not because we're masochistic, but because we're committed to growth. What if some souls choose to become human, knowing that they won't be born? What if they choose that experience deliberately as part of their own evolution? This isn't about making anyone feel better. This isn't spiritual bypassing or sugarcoating a painful reality. This is about recognizing that consciousness is far more vast, far more mysterious, far more intelligent than we've been taught to believe. When you understand this, everything changes. Suddenly, you're not the villain in someone else's story. You're not the destroyer of a soul's chance at life. You're a participant in a sacred agreement that was made long before conception ever occurred. You're a co-creator in a spiritual drama that serves the growth of everyone involved. Does this mean there's no grief? Oh. Does this mean there should be no reflection on such choices? Absolutely not. But it does mean that you can release the soul-crushing burden of believing you've committed an unforgivable sin. It means you can honor the complexity of what happened without being destroyed by it. It means you can recognize that even in your most difficult moment, you are part of something larger than yourself. When souls return, here's something else Cayce revealed that might astonish you. He said that in many cases, the soul that didn't fully become human the first time will return, often to the same mother in a future pregnancy. I've heard countless stories from people who have experienced this. A woman has an abortion or miscarriage, and years later when she does have a child, there's this uncanny sense of recognition. This feeling of, I know you, we've met before. Sometimes it's in the eyes. Sometimes it's in the personality. Sometimes it's just an unexplainable knowing that this is the same soul given a second chance, or completing a plan that was always meant to unfold in stages. Cayce called these soul appointments. Souls who make agreements to meet at specific times under specific conditions, and sometimes the first meeting doesn't result in birth. It's a preview, a reconnaissance mission, a way for both souls to prepare for what's coming. I know this might sound impossible to some of you, but I want you to ask yourself, have you ever met your child and felt like you'd known them forever? Have you ever looked into their eyes and felt a recognition that went deeper than biology? That's not just attachment, that's soul memory. And it's entirely possible that your soul has encountered this soul before, perhaps even in a pregnancy that didn't continue. This understanding brings such profound peace to many people, because it means that nothing is truly lost. No connection is ever severed. The universe is far more generous, far more forgiving, far more inclusive than we've been taught. It also means that the timing of everything, including the timing of interrupted pregnancies, might be part of a larger wisdom that we can't fully see. Maybe you weren't ready to be a parent at 20, but that soul needed to connect with you then, so it could prepare you for the child you'd have at 30. Maybe that first pregnancy was the wake-up call that set your entire life on a different path, one that ultimately served your highest good. Maybe. We can't know for certain, but we can trust. We can open to the possibility that there's intelligence woven through every experience, even the ones that break our hearts. The compassion teaching. There's one more layer to Cayce's teaching that I haven't shared yet, and it's perhaps the most important. In nearly every reading he gave on difficult subjects, abortion, death, tragedy, loss, Cayce emphasized one quality above all others: compassion. Compassion for yourself, compassion for others, compassion for the soul on its journey. He said that the universe doesn't judge the way humans judge. The universe doesn't condemn. It only loves, only teaches, only guides us toward greater understanding. When someone makes a choice about pregnancy for whatever reason, under whatever circumstances, the universe responds not with punishment, but with opportunity. The opportunity to grow in compassion. The opportunity to understand the sacred nature of choice. The opportunity to recognize the value of life without condemning those who face impossible situations. This is so important because we live in a world that wants everything to be simple. Good or bad, right or wrong, black or white. But Cayce taught that the spiritual dimension is painted in infinite shades. Context matters, circumstance matters, the state of the soul matters. A woman who terminates a pregnancy because she's been raped is having a different spiritual experience than a woman who terminates because of fatal fetal abnormalities. And both are different from a woman who makes that choice because she's not ready to be a parent. Are all these situations the same karmically? No. Does the universe condemn any of them? Also no. Each situation is met with exactly the teaching, the healing, and the growth that it requires. This is the compassion teaching, and it extends not just to women who have abortions, but to all of us. Because all of us face impossible choices. All of us make decisions we question later. All of us carry the weight of roads not taken and lives not lived. Cayce's message is clear. You are held by a universe that understands your humanity. You are guided by forces that see the entirety of your journey, not just this one moment. You are loved by a consciousness that knows why you made the choices you made. And you are not alone. The call to transformation. We're reaching the end of our time together. But really, this is just the beginning. Because everything I've shared with you today isn't just information. It's an invitation. An invitation to see your life, all of it, even the painful parts, as sacred. An invitation to recognize that you're part of a vast, complicated tapestry of souls, helping each other grow. An invitation to release the burden of guilt and step into the power of wisdom. If you've experienced abortion, hear this clearly. You are not being punished. The universe isn't keeping score. That soul isn't blaming you. Instead, you're being invited into a deeper relationship with the mystery of existence itself. You're being asked to hold the tension between choice and consequence, between human limitation and spiritual growth, between the pain of loss and the possibility of transformation. This is sacred work. This is the work that forges spiritual maturity. If you're supporting someone who has experienced this, your role is equally sacred. Not to fix them, not to take away their pain, but to witness it, to hold space for it, to remind them that they are not alone and they are not condemned. And if this topic doesn't touch you personally, but you've stayed with me this far, I want you to consider why. Maybe you're here because the universe is preparing you to support someone in the future. Maybe you're here because your soul knows that understanding karma and choice will be important in your own journey ahead. Or maybe you're just here because, like all of us, you're searching for truth in a world full of noise. Whatever brought you here, you're part of this conversation now. You're part of this community of seekers who refuse to settle for simple answers to complex questions. The soul seeks to know itself. Edgar Cayce once said, "The soul seeks to know itself." Every experience, every relationship, every choice, even the ones we regret, is part of that knowing. The karma of abortion isn't a debt to be paid. It's a relationship to be honored, a soul connection to be acknowledged, a lesson to be learned. And perhaps most importantly, it's an opportunity to discover that love doesn't end at the boundaries of physical life. The souls we've carried, whether for 9 months or 9 weeks, remain part of our journey, not as ghosts, not as sources of eternal guilt, but as companions on the path, as teachers, as eternal reminders that we are never alone, even when we feel most isolated. So who pays the price? We all do. We all pay with our growth, our awareness, our expanding capacity for compassion, and we all receive the gift, the knowledge that in this vast, mysterious universe, every connection matters. Every soul has purpose and love, true love, transcends every boundary we can imagine. Thank you for having the courage to explore this with me today. If this video moved you, if it helped you see something in a new way, please share it. Someone in your life needs to hear this message, and let me know in the comments. What's your biggest takeaway? What shifted for you today? I read every comment. I hear you, and your journey matters to this community. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, keep opening your heart to the mysteries that make life worth living. You're so much more than you know, and your story, all of it, is more beautiful than you can imagine.